Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the founding hands on. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الغر الميامين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين في مقدمه الفداء، ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم الكتاب المبين، وهو أصدق الصادقين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the 12th part of the program Spiritual Quest, in which we have been dealing with various topics, various analytic Quranic verses and the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. Some of the topics that we have covered, such as anger, such as patience, such as the significance of the holy month of Ramadan, the real meaning of fasting and what is expected in the holy month. Today, inshallah, as an introduction, we're going to talk about love for Allah. According to Islamic teachings, the minimum expectation of a true believer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to have that love in his heart, and place that love in the first category. In other words, nothing should override the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over any other things, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most highest and the foremost being that has to be loved, and that object of love. In the Quran, in Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 24, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if your fathers and your sons and your brethren and your mates and your forkins and your property which you have acquired, and this slackness of trade which you fear, and dwellings which you like, are deviate to you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger in His way, then wait till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings out His command, and Allah doesn't guide the transgressing people. This verse clearly states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love should be more superior than anything that a person possesses. This superiority here shows itself when the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His religion comes into conflict, and his personal belongings. In this way, a believer should be able to sacrifice his personal favorites that he has attained in this world. For example, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you to sacrifice yourselves and protect other innocent people, there should be nothing that should distract you in that way. There should be no integrity that should keep you away from that path, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to strive in His way. Imam Ali alayhi salam always loved sitting with his children, and one day he was at home sitting with his children, and Sayyidah Zainab salamullah alayha asked her father a question. "Oh father, do you love me?" Imam Ali alayhi salam replied, "Yes, of course I love you. You are like a part of my heart." Then Sayyidah Zainab replied by saying, "Father, how can a believer, a true believer, have two loves in his heart? The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love for his children. Surely there can't be two loves in one heart." Then Imam Ali alayhi salam smiled and replied by saying, "Love Allah for the sake of his love. You love his creations, you love his children, you love everything that belongs to you. I love you because of the sake of Allah." Hence, love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a foundation of Islamic belief. A foundation which means that the established principles are attained, the principles of Islam are attaining Iman, is attaining faith. Because Allah ultimately, as many occasions in the Holy Quran has mentioned, Allah loves the muhsineen, the good doers. Allah loves the tawwabin, the people who have returned to righteousness. Allah loves the mutatahhirin, the ones who stay away from filth. Allah loves the muttaqeen, the ones who guard against evil. Allah loves the sabirin, the patient ones. Allah loves the mutawakkilin, people who trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah loves the muqsitin, those who act equally and just. We move on to the 12th supplication of today, which goes as follows. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم زيني فيه بالستر والعفاف واسترني فيه بلباس القنوع والكفاف واحملني فيه على العدل والإنصاف وآمني فيه من كل ما أخاف بعصمتك يا عصمة الخائفين. O Allah, on this day, beautify me with your coverings and your chastity. Cover me with the clothes of contentment and chastity. Let me adhere your justice and fairness, and keep me safe from all that I fear by your protection, or the protector of the frightened. Here in this beautiful dua we have 4 topics that are covered. Firstly, being the love and the chastity and the purity within our hearts. The second being the justice and unity. Third being the contentment that has to be adhered. And finally, keeping safe by staying away from sin. In the Holy Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا حَتَّى يَغْنِيهِمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And let those who do not find the means to marry keep chaste until Allah makes them free from want, out of disgrace. A Muslim cannot satisfy himself, cannot satisfy his natural cravings other than marriage. If someone cannot afford to maintain his family, if someone can't afford to be that parent that he would always want, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse for him to grant you grace, and then He will bless you then you have to wait for his chastisement. Until Allah doesn't give you that sufficient means, then you should be and be. In religion, fasting is also a cure that is recommended in these situations. For example, if someone has a family and he can't provide for his family, he has children and he can't provide for all of them, then he should sacrifice upon what he has and wait for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grace to be blessed upon him. A cure that grace is blessed upon a person is to fast. This is one of the reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed the holy month of Ramadan, so that we attain that patience in hardship. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, in one of his traditions, has said, كان أمير المؤمنين صلوات الله عليه يقول أفضل العبادة العفاف. It is narrated that Imam Ali alayhi salam once said, the highest ranks of worship is keeping himself pure. This is a hadith, this is a tradition from Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, who was quoting Imam Ali alayhi salam, saying that the best of worships, the ranks of worship, is the one who is pure. Imam Ali alayhi salam also goes further by saying, Al-iffatu ra'su kulli khair. Purity is the means of all goodness. So once a person is attaining that purity, it means that goodness will also come automatically. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, كان يدعو اللهم إني أسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his prayers, in his supplications, would say to Allah, O Allah, I ask for your forgiveness, I ask for your guidance, I ask for your purity, I ask for your piety, and I ask for your sustenance. So we see the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that purity. As we all know that the most perfect man, the most purest man, the most noblest and the most humblest person in the world was the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet he was asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, yet he was asking for his piety, yet he was asking for the purity, yet he was asking for sustenance. We see that on many occasions, not only the Holy Prophet, but if you have time, if you have that tawfiq to read the munajat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, you will see, brothers and sisters, how Imam Ali alayhi salam there weeps and cries for the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet we know that Imam Ali alayhi salam was not the person who committed any sins, was the most humblest person after the Holy Prophet, was the most pious person after the Holy Prophet. Yet he was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all that forgiveness. Imam Ali alayhi salam, in one of his traditions, has said, Asl al-a'faf al-qina'a wa thamaratu qillatul hazn. The foundation of purity comes from contentment, and its fruit is less grief. So if someone, according to this hadith, saying that someone who is content, his weak sorrows and his grief will be lessened on the Day of Judgment. Alongside chastity, your deeds will also be automatically good, as the narration of Imam Ali said, al-ifafu tazkul a'mal. Alongside chastity, your deeds shall also be pure. So once someone attains that chastity in life, his deeds are also pure, his deeds automatically are pure. The results of contentment, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, اقطع بما أوتيت بخفة على الحساب. Be happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, because your calculations on the day of judgment will also decrease, will be lessened. So whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, don't pray in your prayers, don't supplicate that, oh Allah, you've not given me this, you've not given me this. Because ultimately, the best thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us health. He has given us eyes, He's given us hands to touch, He's given us feet to walk, He's given us eyes to see and look. He's given us the 5 senses. There's nothing else that we can ask for. I'll give you a very good example. If you take something hot, if you take water, if you take ice and place it in a hot deserted area, the result of that is going to be the ice turning into water. If we look at our eyes in any degree that we go in this world, in any place that we go in this world, our eyes do not melt. This is one of the beautiful things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. He has given us that temperature that anything could be adhered to. Imam Ali alayhi salam has said, Man qati'a lahu lam yaghtam. Whoever chooses to accept the contentments in his life will never face grief and sorrow. So anyone who accepts the fact that he is content, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take away his grief and take away his sorrows in life, because he's following the orders of Allah. There's nothing that goes against the will of Allah if someone who is content. And his grief, Allah has promised his grief and his sorrow to be taken away from his life. The Holy Quran talks about ADEEL, talks about justice and unity. In Surah An-Nisa, verse number 135, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil-qist. O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. Adl al-insaf is one of the things that a person should have as a character, being a characteristic person of adl and insaf, of justice and unity, as the Holy Quran describes. Imam Ali alayhi salam also talks about justice as being a significance of man and the foundation of faith and a conclusion of goodness and the highest ranking in faith. Al-adlu fadilatul insan, al-adlu zinatul insan, al-adlu ra'sul iman wa jima' al-ihsan wa a'la maratib al-iman. Imam Ali talks about the characteristics of a man if he is just and if he has that unity within himself. He talks about the ranking of iman, the ranking of faith. If someone has justice and unity within himself, if he has that character within himself, then his maratib al-iman, his ranking of iman will be at the highest. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam has said, لما سئل عن صفات العدل عن الرجال فقال عليه السلام إذا غض طرفة من المحارم ولسانة عن المأثم وكفة عن المظالم. Someone asked Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, what was the meaning of being just? What is the meaning of being unity? How do we identify that person who is just? Imam replied by saying, a person who closes his eyes in any unlawful activity, stops his tongue from saying anything bad, and guarding himself against all evils is a person who is a just person, is a person who has unity. Is that person that you should look for who commits no sin? Is that person that you should look for who, when he speaks the truth, he doesn't say anything bad, and he keeps himself away from sins, he guards himself away from any type of evil in this world. The Holy Prophet ﷺ also talks about a just person by saying the most just person is the one who likes things for himself, also likes for others. Likewise, that person who is just dislikes the things that he dislikes for himself, also he dislikes for others. So we need to remember, brothers and sisters, whatever we like in this world, whatever we buy, whatever we attain in this world, we should also like for others. There is something that someone is giving out. You have bought something yourself, but you don't want to give that thing that you buy for yourself to others. You will buy something less, or you will buy something cheaper for that person. No, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said in this hadith, that whatever you like for yourself, let it be food, let it be clothes, let it be anything else, whatever you like in this world for yourself, also like for others. And whatever you dislike for yourself in this world, you also have to dislike for others. You dislike someone talking behind your back, you should not do the same to others, because you dislike it. You should, if you dislike someone being angry at you, you also have to show that you don't show your anger to anyone else. To conclude, one must ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the right guidance, that justice as described in the Holy Quran, as described in the traditions of the infallibles alayhimus salam. And also remember, amongst other people, don't judge and jump to conclusions in any circumstances, because justice teaches us to take a step back and look at both stories and then conclude. I'd like to end this part, the 12th part of the program, with the recitation of Dua Imam Zamana. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك وبفضلك يا أرحم